you. Today is Monday, the 23rd of February, 2026. My name is Francisco Gaffney, and this is my daily streaming all about governance, risk, compliance, and advisory boards. And here's what's happening. People are always too busy and can't see the forest for the trees. And this is what you're seeing here, a forest. And you say, what is this? Well, probably you understand what you're seeing here. So you understand that it's a circle with certain things inside it, but what that means. This is what I call it the growth system. And the reality is not only growth, it implies how the whole enterprise works in many, many areas. And sometimes executive, non-executive directors, boards, and executive teams, like in the C-suite, if you don't have an advisory board or you don't have formally a board, your own team is your board, and you have this vision very funneled about what you do in business, how you work, etc., etc. But the capacity to see the overall picture, like this one, where everything is related to everything and where the system start to correct itself when the failures happen in different areas, is very hard to do or to keep in mind. So you need something visual where say where we are today, where are the plans, where we have the weakest points and how we can improve them to bring a full ecosystem. And the key word here is system, where you can bring all these to life and make it happen with less effort and more return or more output. Now, there are four legs here. I'm going to explain and detail all this the whole week, but I'm going to address today one section, which is number one, and this is the commercial acceleration. And this one the people call scale, how we scale. So we need three things here. First, your brand, second, your people, and then the partnerships. And I'm going to go into details of all these things throughout the week. But I'm going to keep the model here. I'm going to mention only these three sections briefly today, just to start to get you familiarized how the whole system works. By the way, this is not a linear system that goes stage after stage. Everything is happening at the same time. That is a big challenge because in the real life, nothing goes linear. Everything happens at the same time. So how you handle this, knowing where the things are making noise, right? So where the noise happen, you understand where you are in this model, so you quickly can shift activities and performances and etc., and or tasks in the areas that you really need to pay attention, so the system still operating as much independent as it can operate. Now, so this, as I mentioned, this is the integrity map that ensures that the system is coherent as a single operating environment while allowing each strategy to be executed independently. And it has four defined milestones. How we mentioned this milestone already. You want a commercial acceleration, which is scale, how you get bigger. Now, as you get bigger, you also have another challenges. How you grow, also you have how you manage your capital. So that's how predictable are the things. And then how you, in section 3, is all the controls in terms of and resilience. So are the systems that actually allows you to accelerate these processes, right? So if you are doing deliveries in a car, you start a business. Then you buy a van, you have a different setup, a different warehouse, you have a different processes and system to collect these. Now, if the business is still growing and you have a fleet of trucks, I can assure you that distribution system, supply chain, etc., start to get very complex. So you need to start to automate things, get more structure, etc. So it's all this section here. And here's the sections transformation reinvention is key, because this is the one word that I want you to, if you want to get one word home today, is this one, ambiguity. Because when you're raising capital, when you're growing, when you're reporting to your board, your shareholders, etc., there is a big challenge here. So companies want to grow, excellent. Company wants more revenue, excellent. You want more profit, fantastic. But everybody's looking to the past, and past performances doesn't guarantee future successes, right? So we know these things. But managing ambiguity is the big things about transformation and reinvention. Why? Because otherwise you are stuck in a moment in time and living from past glories. So you're resting on your laurels. Bad idea in this world that is changing mostly in three things constantly: economics, so what the flow of capital, interest rates, tariffs, you name it. Social, so how people, the pandemic make a massive social change here. So people now are looking, the first thing they are looking for is this a flexi job, is this a mix, is it office based, or is it fully remote? And then you have the digital nomads, and even you have visas for digital nomads in countries to attract people to set in different countries. So it's a massive social change you have to take into account too. And the third one is technological. And I'm going to mention only one: AI. So the ambiguity that we have to handle if you want to transform and reinvent, to have an edge, to be competitive, to have this competitive advantage against anybody else, are changing the world. And this is a big ambiguity that we have to handle and try to bring home when you're planning. So you need to have all these structures and all these places on your site almost every day to understand if you are going to be a resilient company, a profitable company, and going to add value to your shareholders, or pretty much you're going to uh, live off your past glories and rest on your laurels. So the system itself is self-correcting and designed to permanently create enterprise and shareholder value. That's what I wanted to show you today. And let me develop a bit of this. So this is, let's take a look at this as a board level, as an assets operation system as a whole, but the model is simple. Instead of hiring, for example, if we go back to the section that we mentioned at the beginning, which is brand, people, and partnership in terms of commercial acceleration and scale, if you hire one executive and hoping they can do everything, that is very challenging too. And the reason why is because it's very expensive to hire the right executive. It takes a lot of time, and actually you start to get stuck with that one person, right? And until they start to lift or deliver, it might take a year because they have to familiarize with everything. They need to bring their head around the things, etc. So it's a big value in that, but actually it's not fast and economically or budgetly friendly as it should be. And this is the advantage to work with me, because as your board advisor, I build an international advisory board around the outcomes, right into the outcomes using this model. So it's not a big consulting overhead, not a talent lock-in, and we can swap members every 6 months as the work shifts. So back to the model, if, for example, if we are already on track for the commercial acceleration. So then how we start to look into partnership, like mean distributions, merger and acquisitions, resellers, alliances, marketing agreements, you name it. And we need to bring an expert in that. But actually, if you are locking in one executive or one team for this, then you have a problem. But with our model, you can have an advisor that we can swap for an expert in this kind of a distribution of partnerships, and then you can move on the next semester right on plan, on time, and in budget, compared to other models where you have everything locked in. Now, three problems that I'm going to mention here, so hopefully you can understand where I'm coming from with this. The UK boards are expected to set the purpose, strategies, and values. And I mentioned UK, and it's exactly for any other country that have frameworks, regulation, and compliance requirements. And this, that's to show you how culture aligns with them. So if your growth plan reads like an activity rather than a strategy, the market treats it like noise, right? And we say market, it mentions your customer, your supply chain, investors. Second problem is that long-term investors avoid companies with fuzzy equity story because the signals of the company lacks focus. And remember, we mentioned that we have a funnel focus or ecosystem focus. If your narrative is unclear, you pay for it: impatient and pricing, and then talent churn. So you can spend a very good time hiring people, and then they will leave because they say, this is not clear for me, I don't know where we're going. If growth is still driven only by direct effort, you are exposed to speed limits. So partner influence deals are reported as closing faster than converting, more often than directly only motions. What I mean with this is actually, if you have a magnificent sales team and they are hitting the targets and flying through, that's absolutely fantastic. But actually, you know that actually distribution system alliances and partnership ecosystem can grow your company by 60 to 70% faster and better than your own sales team, because the spread that they have in the market, the connections, is way much bigger and better than your own, even if your teams are doing fantastically well. Now, so what I mean with all this, in other words, imagine that you're trying to scale with a feed the funnel kind of mentality or mindset. Is like watering your garden with a teaspoon. So you stay very busy, absolutely fantastic, but the system stays very small. You kind of grow, scale, and have predictability in what's going on. Now, so how does fix it mean at the board level in these circumstances? It doesn't mean a new slogan. What it means is a tighter story plus a distribution design to keep working when you are not pushing it for it every day, right? We mentioned ecosystems, partners, merger acquisitions, etc. So as a board advisor, what I would propose to consider is the following. Number one, write the equity story as a board tool, not as a marketing piece. One page that answers where we play, how we win, how we allocate capital, and why we deserve long-term holders. Then make every executive pack consistent with it. Number two, build an ecosystem map. List who is the contributors, the tributaries that already hold your buyers, so strategy partners, alliances, challenge alliances, integrators, advisors, and industry bodies that can help you with that. If partners can pull demand into your motion, you reduce dependency on cold starts, and which happen every quarter. Is a new quota, is a new sales motion, is a new sales blitz. But actually, all these partners can bring you a lot of business. I mentioned 60 to 70%. And this is not something I made up. You can go online and find very reputable sources that confirm this. And third, protect leadership time for unique value, not to admin or operations. The leadership have to bring value. So make a scale milestone. The standard is to restructure your roles to 80% of your time of leadership time goes into unique value activities, not in coordination and rescuing work. That is part of the job, but you can do 20% of that. 80% of your time is working on this model, how you make this ecosystem work to be a systematic process that works like a clockwork. Now, here's the practical board question I use. If we removed our top two relationship holders, and can be internal or external, for 90 days, would the demand keep arriving? Well, if the answer is no, your growth plan is not an asset yet. It's just a set of heroic actions because it's still depending on people and not in systematic approach and ecosystem growth. Now, one thing I want to say is, what do you gain working with me then? So it's three things: outcomes, differentiators, and risk reductions. In terms of outcomes, you turn your strategy into one-page equity story and an ecosystem growth plan your board can govern when we translate into a 90 days executive cadence. And remember that reading cadence workflows is very important, because that is back to the 80% adding value rather than working on admin or firefighting. In terms of differentiator, you get an international advisory board built around the assets you are missing. For example, investor relationships, the narrative, the partnership, the sector distribution, etc., without hiring a single unicorn executive and waiting a year for that lift, because they will have to adapt, prepare all this mapping of how we're going to do it, etc., tap into their connections, their resources, etc. So imagine one unicorn executive compared to 5 international advisory boards, 5 people. So you multiply your unicorn by 5. This is amazing. So members rotate every 6 months. So as a work change, so even better. So you're not stuck with one person. And as a risk reduction, the work is designed to meet the UK comply or explain. What I mean with this is expectations and purpose, strategies, and long-term value creation. So your narrative and your operating reality stop drifting apart. You don't want to explain, you want to comply. So one action you can take to home today, and it's doable in 30 minutes or less, write a 10-line equity story and ask one investor, one customer, and one partner where it feels vague. And if they say, well, you already have your answer. It's vague. It's not concise. It's not precise. It's not purpose-driven. It's not business outcome-driven. So let's pause it here for today and reconvene tomorrow. If you are a board member or a leader and you want a B team advising on your equity story, on your ecosystem plans like this model, set up a 30-minute call so I can understand your position and how an independent international advisory board looking from the outside in can help you and your team without stepping on your toes, without the traditional consulting overhead, and without the public theater. Right. Have a great day, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.